Hey everybody, welcome to another World of Tanks replay. This one is what happens when you let a T-32 get into a really good defensive position and you don't have Arty to flush it out. Now this ended up being a loss, I may as well say it now. Partly because my team just threw their tanks away on the other side of the map, partly because I wasn't paying enough attention to the minimap. It turns out that being shot at by about 5 or 6 different tanks at once tends to somewhat interfere with your ability to pay attention to things going on the other side of the map. But in any case, I think I did more than my own share of work, and it just came down to other people on the team not really picking up the slack. Now, being on Redshirt and being in a T-32, the first thing I do is head to the east side of the map, where there's a narrow path running between a couple of hills. There's quite a few rocks there. It's really good heavy tank terrain, fantastic heavy tank terrain. It's not so good for mediums and the lights. What's more, the hills make it ideal T-32 terrain, and the lack of Arty means that once I get into a good hold down position, the only way to get me out of it will be to flank me, or push right up into my face. Here we can see a T-43, that looks like. Yep, a T-43 with the short 122mm gun. Now this is going to become important later, so keep that in mind. We have a couple of tanks on the hill, T-28, T-69, and a Cheeto kind of on the western end of it, and then a bunch of people pushing down the one line. Pushes down the one line used to work in the old days before the map was changed. They don't anymore, and it's important to know that. In any case, the one line is mostly used as a way of flanking the hill and trying to take out the hill defenders from the side, not really a good assault route from the north. So it looks like we've got the majority of the enemy team here, including most of their heavies. You can hear the sizzle of heat rounds there, that's coming from the enemy T-69. It's to be expected, I can't really pay out on him for it. A lot of people do shoot heat out of the T-69 to make up for its relatively poor AP pen for a tier 8. However, in a tier 8 match there's not much need for it. There's nothing in here that you can't pen with T-69 AP. But you don't really know what kind of match you're going into when you load your tank out, so it's forgivable. I sweep around for the easy kill on the Tiger there. Takes one extra gun out of the fight, and you can hear the shots bouncing off of me as I do so. This is not so much the hold down ability of the T-32 coming into play as the fantastically well sloped upper plate, which I mentioned in my previous T-32 video. Coming out from behind a rock at this kind of angle, people are going to be hitting me from the side. They're going to be at an extreme enough angle as it is, but adding on that upper plate slope, it's going to be nearly impossible to get a penning shot through, even with some fairly serious guns that are arrayed against me here. So far things aren't looking too bad. All we've lost is a Hellcat and a light tank, a Walker Bulldog. The enemy have lost a Tiger and a T-21. We lose another light, so what, it's a light tank. But this is where things start falling apart. The enemy get a Type 59 onto the hill. They've got an IS-3 and a JP-2 blocking our push on the one line. And our push on the one line now consists of an IS and a KV-13 with support from the Cheeto. That's not nearly enough to deal with any of the tanks that are currently there. T-69 goes down, which is good news for me. He was one of the bigger threats here. Now the biggest problem I have is the JP-2. If he has the 128mm gun, he can easily punch through my hull armor and he can knock huge amounts of hit points off with each shot. On the plus side, he still can't pen my turret. This T-25-2 was a nuisance all match. He was making it very difficult to get shots on him, and the shots I did take almost universally went into the dirt. I was worried that the position he was in, he'd be able to actually get shots on me and eventually whittle my hit points down. Thankfully, he was mostly paying attention to my teammates. And as you can see, the west is now totally gone, and the enemy are pushing up it with several tanks. I take a bit of a risk here, and I do get tracked. Lose some hit points there as well. So I decide not to be quite so foolhardy, and I pull back a little and angle myself to not be coming over quite so steep of a rise. As you could see, I couldn't depress my gun. The hill was just too steep. Down goes the T-43, and any second now in chat he will begin abusing our team. There we go. You cunts are fucking terrible, says the person using the 122mm derp gun on a tier 7 medium. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If you use a tier 5 gun on a tier 7 medium, you have absolutely no right whatsoever to call your team bad, even if they are bad, because you are worse. T-29 goes down, finished by a KV-3. You can see the IS-3 here to my right has what looks like the 100mm gun. It's certainly not a 122. Roll out around the corner. Now it's taking a bit of a risk there. The IS can hit quite hard, obviously. With the 122, it does 390 alpha. But I did want to take him out of the fight, and he was relatively exposed compared to the JP2 and the Panther, who was still bouncing off me as I rolled around the corner. The tank wrecks here are making it a little difficult to position, but I'm able to squeeze my way in next to the T-29 wreck. I was trying to knock that JP2 out, but the combination of cover he was behind and the angle it caused his casemate to be at, I just could not get a penning shot through. As you can see there. Switch to APCR just to try and make sure my last few shots count. I know we've lost by this point. Even if I'd turned around, which wouldn't have been advisable, I would be unable to pull this one out. So I decided to just double down here and knock out as many tanks as I can. I ping the IS-3 on the map to try and alert the guys behind me that there's somebody coming up behind us. Unfortunately, they weren't paying attention, and so it rolls up behind and finishes the T-34, and our own IS-3 will be next. However, the tanks in front of me are all down, and I'm able to force the 25-2 back into cover here, even if I didn't pen him there. And now I've got a clear path to move forwards and buy myself some time against the pursuing IS-3. Swing around, have my gun pre-aimed, pop that guy, and then I hesitated here, which was a mistake. I should have immediately turned right, and I pull back into a hold down position and whiff my shot. Now if that shot hadn't whiffed, I might actually have survived this, but unfortunately our IS-3 dies and the enemy IS-3 just pushes on me as the Panther 2 pops up on the left side. In any case, I think I did plenty of work on that flank. I just wish that our team had done anything on the other flank. They fed the enemy IS-3 7 kills on that west flank. Well, on the west flank, and then as it sort of rampaged across the center of the map towards the east. There's only so much you can do to carry a team if it doesn't want to win. And in this case, I guess our puppies just didn't want to win. If you look at where they died, we lost 4 tanks on the one line, 2 tanks on the sort of western edge of the hill there, 1 up there, and then the rest all clustered around here. So really, we had absolutely nothing on the hill, and everything was focused on the one line. If that had been reversed and we had 1 or 2 tanks spotting down here and a bunch of tanks arranged on the hill, that enemy push probably would have collapsed, because they would have been shot in the side, and they wouldn't have been fighting lower tier tanks frontally. I mean, if you fight an IS-3, a Löwe, a JP2 and a Panther 2 frontally in tier 7s, you're not going to have a good day. But if you have the tier 7s arranged up on the hill where they're able to shoot in the sides of those tanks, you'll be able to pen them quite easily. It's just another case of pubbies not knowing how to play the map. You really can't afford to use that one line offensively from the north spawn. It hasn't been a thing for years. Even from the south spawn, it's a bit of a risky proposition. Instead of pushing it, usually what I do is position myself here or here and just try and spot towards the hill and get shots where I can, and then as my teammates in this area or on the hill or sort of in this area clean up the tanks that are threatening me from the hill, I'm able to push up, but only late game once all of them have been dealt with. Obviously back in the old days before the map was changed, I used to come down to this corner a lot more and fire at the hill from this sort of position. That's not really viable anymore because the whole topography of the center of the map has been changed completely. It's unrecognizable compared to what it used to be. But you know, you've got to rethink your strategies as the maps change, and I think a lot of people just haven't done that. In any case, you couldn't ask for a better showcase of what the T-32 does than this game, I think. It would have been better if it was a win, obviously, but got to take what you get. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and as ever, I'll see you on the next one.